So in addition to all of that amazing, like, fun work that you've done, you also have a podcast of your own called The Lion's Den.
Yep.
Yes.
And can you speak about the mission, the vision behind Lion's Den, and also if there's anything that the followers and listeners can look forward to from the podcast?
So when the Lion's Den was started, it was during the farmers' protest, and I was basically interviewing people who were on ground there or who could educate me and other people. So the Lion's Den, when it started, it was an education process for both me and my audiences. Like, I did not get into the farmers' protest knowing who Monsanto was and, you know, what the rate of cancer was in Punjab, and it was due to fertilizers and pesticides, like literally nothing. But through the Lion's Den, I not only educated myself, but I hope to educate other people. And then season 2 of the Lion's Den, I was already, you know, part of Sikh Human Rights Group. I was already working on food sovereignty. So I brought in other NGOs, like the Dolores Huerta Foundation, and just basically to keep educating myself and my followers, and basically to build coalitions. Yes, you know, I single-handedly, I have a pretty strong voice, but when united with other voices who are speaking the same message, it's that much more amplified. Season 3, we are working on, and it's probably going to be on female feticide, the killing of the female baby in the womb, which is very prevalent in South Asian culture, especially Punjabi culture. That is another project I've been working on behind the scenes, but we'll get more vocal on probably towards the end of this year, early next year.
Wow. That is
so that's going to be the focus of the next season of
that is what I have been talking to people about. Just basically stories and what's been going on, and why the male baby is preferred over the female baby. And it was something I first started. It was a project that I had been working on when I first joined with the Sikh Human Rights Group, but I think my experiences over the last couple of years and just understanding life a little bit more, I realized that, like, if we are to kind of work against or try to fight certain stigmas that exist within our community, that is the first thing that has to be addressed.
It's sort of like inherent within our culture in like just sort of this preferential treatment towards men in our culture, and it really does start, you know, they're like literally like in the womb and when we're born. So I think that's actually going to be really powerful, and I think a lot of people need to talk about that.
I actually never understood that, because my mom always says that it's Vaheguru first, and your Vaheguru on earth is your mother. So when they prefer the male baby over the female baby, I'm like, that female baby turns into an adult woman who then carries the next generation of human beings. So it's like really funny to me how people prefer the male baby over the female baby, knowing that mostly males are majority toxic.
Yeah, honey.
100%.
And predators.
I mean, it's
especially
and pedophiles.
Especially within the Punjabi community, there's a lot of toxic masculinity. But I've been doing like ample amounts of research on it, and generations like our grandparents' generations and our parents' generation, dowry. I mean, dowry is still very prevalent. Like, even if the guy's family doesn't ask for it, like the girl's side kind of like pushes
Isn't
it
that
down
what a
the throat.
milni is? Isn't that what they do in the milni? They give like blankets and gold, like watches and stuff.
Gurmai, like a lot of it. Like
a lot of it.
I don't like when I was supposed to be getting married, like my parents
We'll go into that.
I mean, my parents were doing it happily. Like, it wasn't like my ex-fiance's side did never ask, none of that. But like they still wanted to do it, and like, okay, good for you. And but like prior generations, it was asked, and like that is the stigma that came. One of the stigmas that came with bearing a daughter was with her, we're gonna have to start collecting dowry young. 2, you know, daughters were considered liabilities because like you take care of them, then you give them away. 3, they were considered liabilities because like, oh, God forbid, like somebody sexually exploits her in any way. Sadi pag nu daag lag jana.
Oh,
so those kind of conversations kind of destroyed, I think, the feminine power that we're I see my generation fighting so hard to kind of like own the narrative on. But it's a deep conversation of where it stems from. I do not think my generation feels as strongly about like the male versus female kind of ratio. Like I know the gentleman that I'm dating or my ex-fiance never cared whether, you know, they had a boy or a girl. But, you know, generations prior, to them, like having someone to carry on the family name mattered. And like it all adds on to this stigma of like, without understanding like the gender of a fetus is decided by the male.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
And the biggest thing, like the man in the relationship decides whether you're going to have a boy or a girl. And all too often, especially with the case of Mandeep Kaur, you know, we heard recordings and saw videos of Mandeep Kaur's abuser basically saying like "Mainu kudiyan detiyan, mainu munda chaida si XYZ," and like
I just want to translate that.
Yeah, can you please translate that for any of our listeners that don't speak Punjabi?
Oh, you gave me girls, I wanted a boy.
Yeah.
And like,
and he stated that he didn't want the girls.
Yeah. Whereas in the Sikh tradition, a child, no matter whether it's a boy or a girl, is considered a gift from God. And there's a quote within the Guru Granth Sahib that says like, "So kyo manda akhiye jit jamme rajan," which is basically like, how can you criticize that woman who gave birth to kings, you know? So it's devastating that, you know, in our religion, in our faith that was created to be actually so what's a term I'm looking for?
Equality?
No, like beyond its time has condones this kind of behavior. It's heartbreaking that we see parents, and my parents are guilty of this too, like saying that you can't come out of this relationship, log ki kehnge, or like, you know, frowning upon somebody talking about what's going on in their relationship on social media or in private, or, you know, saying that even within domestic abuse situations, the girl should stay in that relationship. Kyunki log ki kehnge.
Yeah, what are people gonna say?
Yeah, and I think stigmas within the Punjabi Sikh diaspora especially are rampant.
Right.
In so many facets, right? In so many different areas. You know, for me, I'm not sure if you're familiar with my story, but I'm formerly incarcerated. And so I spent 5 years in the Washington State prison system. And when I came out, I was very vocal about what happened to me on social media. And it's part of my life and part of my platform to talk about it. And I remember my sister was like, what are people going to say? Well, like, what's the Indian community going to say?
Yeah.
You know, he's talking about all this. And I was like, well, fuck that.
Right.
You know, this is my story. I'm the one that lived this. I'm the one that experienced this. And I am putting aside that shame and that guilt because I feel the need to express this, you know? And it's just so sad that like in these other types of situations that shame is still put on members of our community.
And when we talk about social stigmas, I feel as though like one of the key things is those who kind of like allow themselves to be stigmatized are the ones that are stigmatized, and it's such an act of rebellion to just not give a fuck. And I think and when like these old school aunties like see someone like me or see someone like my dad who's like, my daughter can go live in India. My daughter can live in New York. My daughter can do this. Like there was an auntie who was like, it's so embarrassing that she's living in New York. It's so embarrassing. Like what kind of parents allow their daughter to like go to India? And it is like, kudos to my grandmother who raised a emotionally intelligent son who was able to be like, you know what? Society is not going to come and take care of my daughter when she's 40 years old. 2, kudos to a father who, you know, wanting the best for me, accepted that, hey, a relationship isn't working and my daughter needs to walk out of it. Like, You know, you don't see that within. I do think that the Punjabi community in Punjab is a little bit more forward than the Punjabi community within the diaspora.
We were just talking about that.
We were just talking about that on the way over to the studio.
Yeah. And it's like I
think it's because the people here want to hold on to it. Like they don't want to let it go.
They're trying to grasp that culture.
Like, we need to be progressive. We need to be like America. They don't realize like the Punjabi people in America are just as backwards.
I don't think people in Punjab want to be like Americans. I think they're understanding that as you know, the new generations comes forth, they're not going to put up with the same bullshit that they did. And as, you know, more and more women are getting educated and more like, you know, being equal breadwinners to their husbands, they just don't give a shit. And the basic thing that's changed versus what Punjab was when our parents' generations and our grandparents came out of it and what Punjab is now is that it's becoming more metropolitan. Our parents lived there at a time when it was very rural. So what happens in rural communities is that people are living so close together and then, you know, the houses are kache. So like everybody knows what's going on in other people's and there's a more communal existence. Versus now there's more nuclear families in Punjab. So things are a lot more private. So because of the dynamic of the living has changed, the way people operate amongst each other has changed.
Wow.
And families now have still kind of like are living in the mindset that we're still living in communal villages where people are very reliant on each other. And as Punjab has kind of progressed, I think, like you said, the mindset of the Punjabis within the diaspora has stayed the same. And it's kind of sad. And I've noticed, especially where there's a lot of Punjabi people living together, it's worse.
Yeah, it's chaos.
It is chaos. Trust me, honey, I've lived it.
Especially when you have like multi-generational folks living under the same home. That's even worse.
We'll get into that. If your significant other is past the age of 30 and still living with his mom, please walk away.
That's why I moved out. That's literally why I moved out.
Like I said, honey.
Because guys would be like, you still live at like no matter how successful you are,
school,
people.
Though.
Yeah, but people would be like, oh, you still live at home with your mom. I'm like, that doesn't matter. Like I pay bills at home.
We'll get into this. You know, one of the things that I discovered in therapy. So after my breakup, when I started dating again,
wait, hold on. Before we get to that.
Okay.
Before we get to that.
So Sunny knows like excruciating details.
I know, that's why I'm trying to be very political with the way I'm asking this question.
So like but thank you.
You're welcome.
So I got engaged in 2018.
Because it's juicy.
And I was supposed to get married in 2020. And I think I didn't have the maturity to understand what kind of a relationship it was, what I wanted in a husband, what I wasn't getting from a husband. Like I knew it wasn't right for me, but I didn't have the words to explain it until I was in therapy and I was understanding the dynamics of relationships. And I think it's very important for people before they get married or get into relationships to kind of know what they're looking out of life and what they need their significant other to provide for them. And when I say provide, I don't mean monetarily. You know, you always want a man who can take care of you and whatever children he produces with you. But it's also important for a woman to have a vision of the kind of life she wants to live. And I think what ended up happening was like through this relationship, I discovered that this person, although as like he was a wonderful human, still care about him deeply. We're not in communication, but like he couldn't give me what I was looking for. And I think at that point we were just in so deep that we just kept trying to make it work, kept trying to make it work.
And how are you feeling now? Because I know that it's been a journey for you. I think we've shared a lot amongst each other and, you know, you've helped me heal because we kind of broke up with our exes around the same time.
Yeah.
So you were like, everyone turned their back on me. Like I had no friends to speak to. You were like, I think you and Jyoti were like the only two girls that I would really share like my traumas with.
Yeah.
Because I was with that person for like 3 years and it was a really heavy relationship. And so how are you feeling now? Like you said that you were in therapy.
Yeah. So I started therapy. That's another thing that is like frowned upon in our community.
Yeah.
Like
mental health 100%.
So I think being in therapy helped me realize like what I was looking for in a relationship, like simple things like, you know, the logistics of falling in love.
Yeah.
Like what is it for me? Like, for instance, like most people in the diaspora, me especially, because we were raised with our grandparents, we have abandonment issues, which causes anxious attachment styles, and then causes me to be really clingy. And Sunny's like, yeah, bitch, I know. Which causes me to be really clingy. So for that, I needed, you know, a gentleman who had a secure attachment style. That comes from like, you know, being raised a certain way. And it's like, all right, in this dating pool of thisy men, where am I going to find a gentleman who's been raised this way, who lives like this, who can provide this, and still is successful? Like, I don't know if I was talking to you or another one of my friends.
It's called a unicorn. They don't exist.
Oh, Hannah. Hannah. We make magic happen here.
Okay.
I love that. And I feel like we could we could delve into this and talk all day about our love lives and everything, but unfortunately we have to wrap it up with you, Monica. But
I'm so sad.
I know. I want to keep hearing more, and I really hope that you'll come back and talk to us.
She will
again.
come back.
Yes,
for this one, anything.
Yes, please come back.
But on that note, like just like wrap it up real quick in 30 seconds. You want to let folks know any like work you're coming up with, like where they can find you at Monica Gill on Instagram.
It's at Monica_Gill1. Please follow me on Instagram, guys, because I'm shadow banned and it's driving me insane.
Yeah, she's shadow banned because of the farmers' protest
activism
that she's been doing, unfortunately.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, sweetheart.
Okay,
and ladies and gentlemen, let your woman live. Please.
Let your woman live. Love that.
Love that.
Love
and
that.
On that
Put
note,
that on a t-shirt.
And on that note, thank you so much
Monica
on behalf
Gill.
of me and Vik. We love you and we appreciate you and we hope to see more of you.
Oh, you will.
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you, Monica. Thank you.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay.